Hello everyone. I have been with my plants long enough this season to figure out what my favorites are. So I'm going to go through my top 10 favorite flowers that I've grown in my garden this year. I'm also going to talk a little bit about how I grew them in my container garden, if there's anything I would change about growing them next year, because I do plan to grow all of my favorites next year as well, but there are some slight changes that I would make. Some of these I've grown before, some of these are new to me this year, so I'm very excited. And this top 10 is not ranked in any order. I love them all almost equally. So I'm going to start first with Dinnerplate Dahlias. Mine are just starting to bloom behind me. Dahlias were one of the first flowers I wanted to try in my container garden because they're just so beautiful. And this was at a time when I wasn't sure if every flower that I loved I could grow in my garden, which yes, you actually can. I have been growing Dinnerplate Dahlias now for 3 or 4 years. Maybe it's even 4 or 5 years, but these are a must-have in my garden. I think these are also a showstopper in my garden just because of the size of the flowers. Anytime someone comes outside, they are immediately drawn to the giant flowers on the Dinnerplate Dahlias. So Dinnerplate Dahlias are usually the ones with the largest flower sizes. I do love other dahlias, and there are some other ones on my list, but these visually I feel like are definitely the standout in my garden. In this border behind me, I have my Dinnerplate Dahlias in an individual 7-gallon bag. Each of these plants is in their own 7-gallon grow bag. I also do have a 19-inch support cage just to keep them upright when it gets a little bit windy up here. And then they are all on irrigation. Now, with dahlias, they are cut and come again, so you'll see multiple flowers on each plant at a time, but I do regularly harvest these for bouquets. Often I'll keep the Dinnerplate Dahlias for my own bouquets. Now, dahlias are perennial. They can't stay outside in Chicago, although some did survive outside of my containers in Chicago, which still makes no sense to me. But these I will bring down, so I'll chop off the stalks, I'll bring down the grow bags into a garage, which does not get below 40 degrees, and that's where they'll stay all winter. I'll water them once, maybe twice over the winter, and then I'll bring them back out once it warms up enough in the spring. So some of these are on their 2nd or 3rd year in the garden. Some of them are just starting off new in the garden for me this year. I don't think you can go wrong with any Dinnerplate Dahlias in your garden. Since we're on the topic of dahlias, let me go over a very specific variety that has been amazing this year, and that is the WineEyed Gil Dahlia. Now, these are not Dinnerplate. I believe they are decorative dahlias. So the flowers themselves are a bit smaller. The plant is just as tall, if not even taller, than some of my Dinnerplate Dahlia plants. I have 3 of these that I got from my friend Sarah. I will link her website down below if you do want to get tubers from her next spring. I have 1 WineEyed Gil Dahlia in each of the 3 raised beds here that make up the border that faces the church, and they're doing spectacularly. I've never grown a dahlia in my garden that has been as productive as WineEyed Gil, and I have tried a lot of varieties, tall ones, small ones. I don't know what it is about this plant, but it is incredible. I'm harvesting 20 to 30, if not maybe a little bit more every week, and the plants are still going strong. In general, what I would say I would change differently about next year is that I need to stake them. They are so productive that they are branching out a lot, and with the wind up here, they're sometimes toppling over. I have had some of the branches break from the wind, so I need to definitely stake them. Probably something even taller than the 19-inch plant cages that I use for these dahlias back here, but they are just incredible. I love the color. I love how many blooms they produce. I love how they look in my garden in the border. I am 100% growing these again next year. So my plan, since I can't carry the raised beds downstairs to the garage, is I'm going to dig them up and I'm going to pop them in a nursery pot of soil. I'm going to store them in the garage with the Dinnerplate Dahlias and then move them out in the spring. I do also think that next spring I need to start dividing some of these dahlias, so I'll plan to divide my Dinnerplate Dahlias, the WineEyed Gil Dahlias, any other dahlias that I might have had around for a couple years now, but I'm just in love with the WineEyed Gil. I didn't expect to love a dahlia any more than a Dinnerplate Dahlia, but this one has just blown me away. Next, let's move into 2 different varieties of zinnias that one has been an old favorite and one is a new favorite. Now, I love all zinnias. They are what make up the majority of my giveaway bouquets. They are cut and come again, incredibly productive. And I've grown so many different types. This year I've grown even some very, very petite ones that just add color to the beds. I don't think, kind of with dahlias, I don't think you can go wrong with any type of zinnia flower as long as it's something that you love. But there are 2 varieties, so these are now my 3rd and 4th on this list. The old favorite is the Queenie series of zinnias. Queenie Lime Blush, Queenie Lime Red, Queenie Lime Orange, and then Queenie Lemon Peach are the 4 that I have in my garden. I grew them all last year, I think for the first time. Oh no, I think 2 years ago I grew 2 varieties, the red and the blush. I love those. Last year was the first year I put all 4 varieties in my center raised bed. I did the exact same thing this year. They have been, even last year they did well, but they have been so incredible this year. And it was a weird year for zinnias. I feel like because it was a bit colder coming out of spring into summer than we normally are, they were a bit behind, but no powdery mildew yet, fingers crossed. Everything just looks green and healthy, and the flowers even feel like they're just more vibrant this year. So I am 100% growing all of those varieties again, and I highly recommend at least trying one from the Queenie series. The other zinnia that I've fallen in love with this year is the Ballerina zinnia. Both of these varieties, I got the seeds from Johnny's Seed, the Queenie and the Ballerina. The Ballerina was new for this year, and I'm drawn to pink, so it was a pink zinnia, it was new, I had to try it. These are incredible. First of all, I love the color. I think Ballet is the perfect color to describe this pink. Second of all, the size of these. These are the largest zinnias, and I don't mean height of the plant, although they are pretty tall, but I mean diameter of the flower head. And they are just incredible. They are so big. I didn't know zinnias could get this big. I do have one here that I just harvested. This isn't even the largest of the flowers that I've cut from the Ballerina zinnias, but it's big. I mean, head comparison, it's probably about half of my head size. I love these, 100% growing them again next year. I'm going to save seeds from my zinnias this year because those sold out pretty quickly this year on Johnny's Seed. I actually order most of my seeds in the fall going into winter so that I don't have any issues with things selling out, but they sold out very early in 2025. So I have these in my raised beds. I don't really have them in individual pots anymore just because I like them in a border, but I have grown 3, I'd say medium-sized zinnias in a 12-inch pot. So they're in my 30-gallon grow bags, they're in my raised beds on the border, they're in my center raised bed on the front deck. What I would do differently, stake them ahead of time. Same thing with the WineEyed Gil Dahlia. I thought I was going to be better at pruning and keeping the size under control, and then I wasn't. And so I've had a lot of, again, plants flopping over. There are some plants that are almost completely growing horizontal now, and I'm just letting it happen because that's how they seem to be living their best life right now. I will be better prepared when it comes to staking my zinnias and my dahlias in my raised bed. I feel like when I'm planting plants together in one container, I just assume they'll all hold each other up. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. Number 5 on my list is Angelonia. Any Angelonia, any growth habit, any color, I love it so much. I'm growing more of the upright Angelonia this year, which looks beautiful on its own in my border. Last year, I did do more of the cascading Angelonia, which I do actually have some on the garage deck, and that looks really pretty intertwined with other plants. Why do I love this so much? I do nothing. I basically ignore it, and it looks beautiful throughout the entire season. They're always full of color. They are cut and come again, so I do harvest off these quite a bit to be fillers in my bouquets. They just live. No matter what I do, they just keep living and thriving, and those are my favorite qualities in a plant, something that can survive even if I ignore it. Again, sometimes they probably prefer that I ignore them. I haven't had any real pest issues. The leaves are green and beautiful. I didn't know how much I needed Angelonia in my life until last year, and then I just added more this year, and it's stunning. What I am going to do differently is, well, next year I'll probably have more, and I'm going to mix it more in my borders, because in my borders, especially back here, a lot of the plants are ones that I've started from seed, so they're not in bloom as early as some of the plants that I get sent from Proven Winners or that I find at Home Depot or any garden center. But the Angelonia is colorful when I get it sent in, I think May is usually when I get my shipment from Proven Winners. So it immediately adds color into spaces in my border. And because they have both upright habits and cascading habits, it's really great to be able to mix those 2 different growth habits together. So I'm probably just gonna have a lot more Angelonia next year. I did Wedgwood Pink, Wedgwood Blue, which is really a purple color. I have Cascade White. Last year I did a cascading pink one. They're stunning, incredible, and one of the lowest maintenance plants that I have in my garden. Next on my list is Superunia Vista, specifically Superunia Vista Bubblegum. I love all of the Superunia Vistas. Those are the most aggressive growing Superunias from Proven Winners. Behind me, I did do bubblegum last year. This year I've done Cool Jazz. They were eaten by budworms semi-recently, so they are starting to get their blooms back. But even though these do grow fairly well, I think I did 2 plants in each of these containers, which are about 2 feet wide, but nothing that I have seen of any Superunia, any Petunia, anything grows as incredibly as the Superunia Vista bubblegum. And because I've been trying out some new varieties this year, I didn't plant as many as I have in the past, and I miss it. I do wish I had it in this border because it was just a burst of color last year. I still love the Cool Jazz. I will be growing it again next year, but there's something about Superunia Vista bubblegum that is amazing. Next up on my list is a new for 2026 variety that I got to try out this year in my garden, and that is the Superunia Mini Vista Pink Cloud. So it doesn't grow as large as a regular Superunia Vista, and the flowers are smaller, but it is just full of that color that you expect from a Superunia Vista. Now these are pink, they have white and slight yellow in the center, and the reason why I love them so much is how well they've done in different light exposures. I have them up here in full sun and scorching heat, and they've never had an issue with the heat, even when we've had days over 100 degrees, which is even hotter up here on the rooftop. They've done well in part sun, they've done well in part shade. I think I might even have it on my front stairs as well, which is full shade basically, and there is still color on it. So I'm just blown away by this one. I'm gonna have it a lot more places next year, and I'm really looking forward to this one being released. I recommend that if you find it, most of the time I'll find my Superunias at Home Depot. If you can find it, get it and try it in your garden. All of the flowers that I've recommended so far do great in full sun. They do great in the heat up here. But because we have a pergola on the garage deck, and this is the first time I've planted down there, I got to play around with some shade and part shade plants, and there are more that I've fallen in love with. Now, anytime I want color in a shaded area, I immediately go for either impatiens or begonias. That's what fills a lot of the parkways here in Chicago. And I have one specific favorite variety of sun patient, and then a series favorite of an impatient as well. So first up, the sun patient is Orchid Blush. This I grew for the first time last year. I'm not sure if it was a new release or not last year, but it's a very pretty light lavender color. And when you're looking at it in the sun, it doesn't often show up well on photos or video, but there is a glittery sparkliness to the petals. I have learned that it does not like full sun. I currently have it on a border on my garage deck that when it was really hot and it got direct morning sun, which isn't even as harsh as the afternoon sun, they got a little bit crispy. But now that the temperatures have cooled down and the plant's a little bit bigger, they're doing fantastic. I also have them down by the patio area, which is part shade. I have them in a pot out front, which is full shade. And even though I think they are marked as part sun, they're doing fantastic in all of those areas. We are going to finish number 10 inside because it's the Air and Water Show this weekend. And clearly they are not respecting my filming schedule. But actually it is really cool because really for 4 days I get to watch the jet planes fly over, because Thursday and Friday are rehearsal, and then the show is Saturday and Sunday. And the weather's been really good for it. So, I mean, they fly so close to our house, and it can be so loud that sometimes I'm pretty sure they have flown into our house, but luckily it has not happened yet. But it's really cool just to be able to sit outside and enjoy that. I don't think I've ever actually seen the water portion of the Air and Water Show because I've only just watched it from our deck. So anyway, my number 10 plant is the Rocka Poco Impatient series, whatever color you want. These bloom beautifully in full shade. I've also had them in part shade, part sun. I don't think they would love full sun up here on my rooftop deck. So on the garage, on my front porch, in the parkway, they're just perfect. And why I love these is the form of the flower. They look like tiny roses. In fact, when I first brought some home, my husband thought they were tiny rose plants because that's what they look like. Most impatiens I feel like are very flat flowers, but these are just beautifully layered. I mostly have the pink ones. I do have some white ones as well, but there are a ton of different colors. So anything that says Rocka Poco on it, I will grab. And I usually get, I don't know if I've ever found them at Home Depot, but if you're in Chicago, Adams and Sons and Daughters Garden Center has them. So check out that garden center anyway. Even if you're in Chicago, there's cats that live on the street right next to it. But that's where I find those specifically. And then I did get some also sent from Proven Winners, but those are a must-have in my garden. They're just beautiful. And again, constant blooming in shade while I ignore them. Do you see a theme here? I love the plants that I can ignore, and they still work out really well. So those are my top 10 for 2025. That does not mean there aren't other plants I love. For example, I still love gomphrena. It's always gonna be very close to my heart. It's just that this year hasn't been a great year for it, and I've grown the varieties that I'm growing so many years now that it's not like it pops out and stands out to me. But again, the cooler weather that took so long really stunted a lot of my gomphrena, but I'm still growing all the varieties of it every single year. So there's a lot of plants I love, but these were the top 10 that just so far this season have stopped me in my tracks, and there was something about them that just stood out among everything else in my garden. Let me know down below what your top favorite flowers are. Maybe there's some I need to add to my garden next year. Let me know if you've tried any of the ones that I had and if you had a similar experience or a different experience. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.